to the Grind to Growth to Greatness podcast. The best and brightest entrepreneurs, CEOs, creators, athletes. We'll talk to them all, and we'll get the good, the bad, and the ugly on how they made it. Decoding the secrets of success. And now your host, Terry Barr.
There are some people we meet in this world, or we run across them, and we stand back in amazement at their accomplishments. Today, we're going to have a conversation with one of those people. Her name is Tara Dower. She's an ultra-marathon mountain trail athlete, and she has the distinction of holding the fastest known time on the Appalachian Trail. And for those of you that don't know, the Appalachian Trail is almost 2,200 miles. It spans from Georgia to Maine. It takes about 4.5 to 6 months to complete. And this young lady completed this journey, this trek of self-discovery in 40 days and 18 hours. An absolutely amazing accomplishment. It's the fastest known time for all athletes to ever attempt the Appalachian Trail. And not only does she have that, she also has fastest known times for other trails across the U.S. This young lady has an amazing story of self-discovery, overcoming certain things in her life, and we're going to talk about those things. But I couldn't be more happy to have Tara Dower on our podcast today. So welcome in, Tara Dower. I've watched her journey and those kinds of things, so that's been fun to listen to. And recently I turned 60 in November, and so I turned 60 and I thought, I'd do something hard. I love the Appalachian Trail. It's about 3 miles from my house in Pennsylvania. So I said, I'm going to go and do some miles. So I did 27 miles, but on the way through that section, I saw a trail runner and young lady, and she was coming towards me, and I had stopped for a break, and I said, "Hey, you trail runner, She goes, "Yeah." I said, and she kind of kept running. I said, "I have Tara Dower on my podcast next month or whatever." And she stopped in her tracks and turned around and came back, and she goes, "She is absolutely my hero." And I said, "Well, congratulations." She turned around and she kept running. But so I've run into a couple of those instances, and I think it's pretty exciting to see what kind of effect you're having on people. But
yeah, thank you. That's so kind of you. I appreciate all your kind words. I also appreciate you getting one of the prints behind you from Abigail. That's awesome. Yeah, it was very good. I think we raised so much money for Asheville. There's so many great things, great charities out there, but Beloved, we were able to give like a lot of that money to Beloved. So I'm really happy that she made that. And, 50% of those proceeds went to the relief efforts. So thanks for contributing to that.
Absolutely. I sent an email out to your family I wanted to buy a book from you. And I thought, well, I read the book before our interview. And then I ran into your friend Abigail, and I'm like, what a great way to kind of represent and give some money to the cause. And my son used to live in Asheville, so he's connected. So it was a whole thing. But so what I'd like to do, Tara, is I'd like to kind of have you start out. Tell us where you grew up, what your family was like. I know you've got some backstory to all your successes and all your FTKs, but I also know that you have a backstory according to what I've read, and I've watched interviews and I've read some articles and things about you. And I kind of like to step into that world, if you don't mind, and tell people about what you've went through, what you're going through, and what drives you to keep doing what you're doing. And then I want to talk a little bit about how Girls on the Run attaches to you. I know you're a big supporter. I think you raised like $100,000 overall. And we have a big Girls on the Run contingent here in our area. One of my clients is a mentor, or whatever they call those ladies that go in and have, she calls them her team. she's really excited about hearing you. So I'd like to kind of delve into that. And then obviously at the end, we want to delve into some of your successes. I mean, it's not just the Appalachian Trail. You have accomplished so many things, and your story is fantastic. So if you don't mind, let's jump right in. Do we have 45 minutes to an hour? Okay. I just want to make sure you tell the story in your words, and we'll get through it. Tell me about where you grew up. Tell me about your childhood.
Yeah, I grew up in Wake Forest, North Carolina, right outside of Raleigh. And at the time of living there, when we moved there in 1999, my family, my brother, my parents, and our dog, it was a really small town. Now it's grown quite a bit as people kind of like fan out from Raleigh. So it doesn't have the small town vibes anymore. But yeah, I grew up in Wake Forest, North Carolina, and if we're just going with the sport side of it, I played soccer throughout my life up until, from when I was a little kid to when I graduated high school. And then along the way too, I found running. I went and ran track in middle school, and then was really good at the mile, which was kind of surprising because soccer was okay. I wasn't great. I didn't have a great coach that was encouraging me. That's like a whole other story, but like I ran track, and I was like, this is my mom. I remember the first track meet, she said that I found my gift. And then I ran cross country in high school, and that's sort of like the basic pace of my life. Very simple upbringing. My parents enjoyed hiking and camping, so that's kind of where I got that
Okay.
backpacking side of me, the outdoorsy side of me.
Yeah, that's great. You attempted the Appalachian Trail, I know, early on after school, and didn't make it to the end. I can't call it a failure because if you've spent any time on the Appalachian Trail, it's not an easy event. I was a leader in our youth group for a while. I think we did 4 50-mile stints on the Appalachian down there between Tennessee and North Carolina, the hardest balds up there. And crazy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. And so I know you did you attempted that. I want to delve into that just a little bit, what your mindset was going into that, what made you want to do it. And then when you didn't make it all the way to the end, and talk to me about the why you didn't make it and how you overcame some of that.
Yeah, well, I only made it 80 miles out of 2,200, so not even close. I call it a failure, but it was definitely like, I think everyone should go through like a type of failure in their life just to, it just makes you more diverse, well-rounded person. And if you're acquainted with failure, you realize that failure isn't that bad if it actually happens, and that just causes you to try and try and try at different things that might be scary. Like, failure is not as scary as I made it out to be, even though in the moment it was pretty upsetting. I got over it and have done other things since then
Sure.
that I consider somewhat of a success.
Yes, you have.
And in 2013, I watched a documentary about the Appalachian Trail and was enthralled. The community, the culture, it's just the journey of it just really appealed to me. And got out there after college in 2017 after working for a year and saving up enough money, and got out there in 2017 and attempted and actually realized I had pretty bad anxiety on the seventh, eighth morning. I actually forgot what it was, but woke up and had this very physical manifestation of anxiety where, something was sitting on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I had a migraine, and I was just like hyperventilating too slightly. And it was really scary. So I got off trail and took a lot of time to understand the anxiety. I thought it was something deeper. I thought maybe I was having a heart attack, but my doctor confirmed it was a panic attack because it was such a physical thing. It wasn't so much, before when I was going on the trail, it was like in my head, but this morning was just very physical for me. So I wasn't quite sure what was going on. And I got off trail. I knew that's not how I wanted to experience the trail, always thinking about the end. And that's kind of like where I was. It was like, I wasn't at that point, I wasn't thinking, though I had anxiety. I also, in 2017, it changed from like enjoying the journey, why I wanted to be out there, to then just being a thru hiker, to call myself a thru hiker of the Appalachian Trail. And I had to come to terms with like my motivations, like what was my motivation going out there? And I had to kind of change that and then work on my anxiety a bit. And it wasn't perfect, even when I went back out there 2 years later in 2019, but I was better acquainted with my anxiety. And I also had what I thought like good motivations for being out there, which was to, experience nature, the community, the culture, the entire journey. So much so to when I got to the end at Mount Katahdin, when I finally could call myself a thru hiker, I didn't want to leave because I had developed this like lifestyle, these friends, and this like amazing life.
Yeah, across the board. Let me have you talk a little bit about the anxiety part, because I know that the client of mine that wanted her girls to hear this, and they're actually going to play this interview before one of their races or something, or one of their practices or whatever. I know they're going to look at it together. Talk specifically about, I know a lot of kids, and then specifically girls, because that's who you're really inspiring, I think, on a lot of it. I mean, I'm not a girl, but I'm blown away by what you're doing. Talk a little bit about your anxiety and how you approach that, how you said you came to terms with it a little bit. Tell me how you got over that, because I know little kids, they have a lot of anxieties. They're quiet. They're introverted, some of them, and they don't know which way to go. So what advice could you give to girls that are having these kind of self-doubt and anxiety things?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it comes with a level of life experience. Like I could tell somebody stay in the moment or don't worry about the future, but until you are posed with like a situation where it's like you need to practice that, I mean, it makes sense once you're starting to practice that over and over and it becomes more routine. So I think there's a level of life experience, but like you can prepare yourself beforehand, before the anxiety comes on. And I think like, especially for like young women, young girls, I think like a good thing to do is to realize that like this is all temporary. This anxiety, like maybe you're in pain, maybe you're on like a long backpacking trip, maybe you're going to school and it's your first day of school. I remember when I was a young girl going first day of school, like just knowing that like, this is the first time you're going to be doing this. It's not always going to be like this. And to keep that in perspective, to know that like, it's always like the fear of the future. So I wouldn't say like, don't be fearful of it. Like that's hard to say, but it's just know it's not going to always be like this, and you can move past it. I think staying in the moment is a great practice too. If you can just bring yourself back to your body and like ground yourself. So grounding techniques look like, okay, what am I feeling? So like I'll pick up a rock if I feel really anxious and I'll feel it. And I'll hold it in my hands and feel like the temperature. Okay, it's a cold rock. It's very jagged. It has little moss on it, and that will bring me back to my body, bring me back to like my center. So I'm able to like, I'm not like thinking about the future. I'm just like out here in space. That tends to help me, but there's a lot of different techniques, and until you get that life experience and until you like practice it, that's where it really comes into play. Obviously.
Yeah. Interesting. So your anxiety and your, call it anxiety, self-doubt, whatever label you put on it as a young woman, you work through that. On 17, you decide to go back on the trail, and then you finish and you can call yourself a thru hiker finally. Was there an over? I know that 4.5 to 6 months is filled with lessons and life things. But was there something when you stood on Katahdin that came to mind that you've reflected back on that period of time, whether it was the 5 months that you spent doing it, or the comparison between 19 and 17. Can you tell me what your thoughts were standing on the top of that finish line?
Yeah, it's funny. I wasn't really thinking a lot about like the past, like so far in the past. Like in the moment, I was really just like happy to be up there and happy to be with my friends. I would say like throughout the journey, like there were moments where, in 2019, I got to Bly Gap where I got off the trail and I was like, okay, this feels really good to continue on. And I feel in a good headspace just comparing the two mindsets to like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And I'm so anxious to like, I'm really enjoying myself. I can't wait for the next day. Um, Yeah, and then I also went in 2017. I also tried to do a flip flop
Oh,
because I was like, I missed the no-bow bubble. So I
yeah.
went up and I flipped with some friends, and
Okay.
I got off at another point because the anxiety still wasn't okay. And I remember passing that point in Pennsylvania, and I was like, wow, like I still feel great. I'm having a great time. I have great friends around me. And I'm just like, it's completely different. I remember thinking like just being so upset with myself that I was leaving. I wanted to be this like outdoorsy, backpacking girly, but I wasn't there, and it wasn't my year. That's what I've come to terms with. It wasn't my year to hike. I tried over and over. And it was bound to like I was bound to be out there in 2019 to meet the people I met and to have the experience I had then. I'm really glad I went out there then.
Well, I think it's incredible that you've had that experience, both Nobo and in the other way, and that you struggled through that and you got off the trail. We all know you can't do things by yourself. I mean, I've watched a lot of your videos. You have a lot of support, your friends. I mean, I think one of your comments on one of your videos was, just recently, women are so cool. And you've got all these women and a couple guys around, and it's like this group. Did you have a mentor, something that some person that you stepped into and said, "Hey, I need help with this anxiety. I need to work through this," or was that something you kind of like hit head on yourself and worked yourself through it?
Yeah, I would say like at first, like after 2019, well, like 2017, 2019, it was kind of on my own. But then it wasn't always perfect. Like 2019, I still had an amount of anxiety. And 2020 was probably the most scary anxiety I've had. Like, yeah, I had that panic attack in 2017. That was pretty scary, but like, I went out for an FKT on the Mountains to Sea Trail that goes across the state of North Carolina in 2020, and it was really really bad then, and I actually like wanted to self-harm with a rock and like break my leg. I wanted any way out, and I knew I couldn't just quit again because of my anxiety, which is not true. Like anyone listening to this, like if you have anxiety, that's a completely valid reason to, or any mental struggle, that's a completely valid reason to like stop something and like try to understand what was going on. Like mentality is not like, it's not seen. Like a physical injury you can see and be like, oh yeah, you're like injured, you can't hike. But like oftentimes we don't see like the mentality that in that same light. So anyone who's listening, like it is serious and it's totally valid to like stop something because of a mental block. So it wasn't always perfect. In 2020, before I actually started the Mountains to Sea Trail, I was seeing my therapist, who was incredible. And she actually talked me through some moments where I was feeling anxious on the Mountains to Sea Trail. And, I've worked with her for a long time, and she's definitely the reason why I'm here now. And, I feel level anxiety sometimes, but I wouldn't say in check. That's not a good word. I would say it's like under control and it's like manageable.
Well, let me ask you a question about that. And I don't want to stay too far on the anxiety thing because it's anxiety. We don't want to like beat it with a dead horse, but can you define what that feels like for you? I know anxiety is different for everybody. I spent a lot of time in the woods as a kid. I've spent some time on the trail. Nobody likes being in the dark and hearing all the noises and things. Was it that type of anxiety? Was it I can't do it anxiety? Can you give me an explanation of what it meant to you?
I honestly didn't still don't quite understand where that anxiety comes from. It was just like this like fear, sense of doom. That's the best way I can describe it. I'm pretty good at like hiking at night and like I don't really have a lot of fears. I have fears of like people. But that wasn't anxiety. I wasn't anxious about the animals or the people as much. It was just like this sense of doom and this feeling of like this is not where I should be. Like it wasn't so much missing family either, but that was, yeah. And I wonder if that's just not being used to like those conditions. So the more I'm out there, the more I feel comfortable in my tent or backpacking by myself in the dark. I think it was just I had never really stepped out like that
Yeah.
before.
And I think that's fair. I mean, to be honest with you, we were designed 200 years ago or 300 years ago to be in the woods and to be chasing our food and to be, subsisting in the woods and finding our food. And that's not our reality now. So to go back that way and to say, I want to spend time there, I want to spend time in the wild, that takes a certain level of forgetting where you came from and saying, okay, how do I subsist in the out in the woods and outdoors? But it seems like you've done a good job of that. It seems like you've really driven yourself to be successful. I want to talk about your drive a little bit, if we could. Where does that drive come from? There's been a lot of FKTs out there. First this guy does it, and then this girl does it, and then this guy does it, and then you did it. And I've read some stories about all of those. Where does your drive come from? I'm assuming it doesn't come from like, I need to beat that time, but there's a certain amount of drive you have to put what you put yourself through.
I think it's different drives for different things. The Appalachian Trail, when I decided to do the FKT, it was very much I want to experience the trail again. I want to experience like the feelings of like an FKT on the Appalachian Trail, but I was very much looking forward to like being out in nature every day. I never wanted to leave the trail. Like we would sleep at
on
the
the
van
trail.
right on the trail. There was only one night that we slept at a hotel and we couldn't, it was like, I didn't really want to, but we didn't really have any other choice. But like every 39 nights I slept right there in the van or on a tent on the trail. And I never wanted to leave. I just wanted to stay there. And I was like living there. I was literally living on the trail, never leaving. And so I would say the drive there was like, to see my limits. I want to see if I can measure up to all of these mentors I've had in the FKT realm, like Appalachian Trail FKT realm. And I want to try something different. Like there's this like formula for an Appalachian Trail FKT, and it was a formula for a while, but Carl Sabe, I felt like he really diverted from that. And I wanted to do the same thing and take my own direction. And that's what I did. But like for like a regular I'm doing bunny ears, regular FKT or like a race, it's very much like I am competitive. I was competitive on the AT, but I'm like, it's more competitive. I want to see how much I can get out of myself. It's also like proving it to myself is a big thing, like proving that I can do it, proving I can push my limits really far. Because for a long time, growing up, I didn't feel like I measured up athletically, and I just am continually pushing those limits to see, how to prove it to myself that I can do it. And I think I've proven it to myself, and now I'm like starting to want to like compete and set records that can't be broken. But I would love to see them broken.
Yeah.
I just want to do my best.
That's an athlete. That's somebody with a competitive spirit. I know recently I just watched a video that you did on the Black Canyon. Congratulations, by the way, again, second place. Great video. I watched the whole thing. I got to see your clan of girls and people out there that were helping you. And that was interesting. But the statement you made at the end is like, I proved it to myself again. And it's interesting that you feel the need to do that. I mean, I made it 27 miles on my 60th birthday, and I'm like, okay, that was great. I'm in, I did it, but there is a certain amount of competitive spirit that's built into your DNA. One of the things I want to reverse a little bit on your FKT at the Appalachian Trail. I know I read Jennifer Farr. She has a couple books out there. I read hers and talked about the old guard versus the new guard and some of the things that are, historical. You call the guy that you call. Did you call Carl before you were going to break it and talk to him about that? Or did you just say, this is what I'm going to do and I'm out there?
I read the same book, and I started out doing that. I contacted people when I
Right.
started doing FKTs that I was out there to break their record.
Yeah.
I couldn't get a hold of Carl Sabe, but we haven't messaged, but he did like follow me on like the last couple of days of the FKT, and he seemingly was pretty excited that I broke it.
Yeah, well, those extreme type of sports. I mean, to call yourself an ultra marathon trail mountain athlete. There's so many terrible words in there when I conjure them up, but it just seems like such a community that really, from what I've read, community that supports each other, that roots everybody on. I've rarely read anything that somebody's, crossways with somebody else because they beat their record. So I was just curious about that and what you had gone through. And then a question I have on that is, who is Omi? I read something there and about your support team and your conversation there, and I wondered who she was. It's one of my questions I had for you.
Yeah, the support team was huge for me. I would love to talk more about that. I mean, Omi is my mother. That's her trail name.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So the constants throughout the FKT, because we had people coming in and out, the three constants were me, Rascal, and my mom, Omi, or Debbie. Right. As
Debbie,
people normally call her.
And I suppose your Candy Mama, is that your trail name? Is that what I read? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Candy
all right.
Mama.
Okay.
And so the crew is huge. I don't say this is like my FKT. I might slip up and say like, yeah, this is my FKT, but truly I see it as a team effort, because without the entirety of the team, like everyone that was involved, I mean, like the 40 so people that were in and out, like they were there for an hour, somebody was there for a month, like all of them together, it's all of our FKT. Because something I wanted to do, I felt a lot of pressure going into this, and it was such a big undertaking. And I told Rascal, who was the crew chief, who I met in 2019 during our thru hike, I told her, I was like, I need this to be a team effort. I need us to have different jobs. So my job, we called me the race car. So really I was just this like embodiment of the FKT. And then Rascal is the crew chief. So she made all the decisions. She guided the team. She told them how many miles we're going to do that day. She told me how many miles I'm doing that day. She was the ringleader. And my mom, Omi, was like the crew chief mom. She just kind of did everything. She kept
emotional
Rascal
support.
sane. Yeah. She kept Rascal sane. She gave, in the last like 24 hours, she gave me this like game time speech. But then there's like people like pacers out there. I had one pacer with us for about a month.
Explain people that may not know what a pacer is. Explain what a pacer is.
Yeah, they played a huge role in this because they essentially are people that run with me for sections. It could be anywhere from like 8 to 30 mile sections. It tended to be like close to like 10-ish consistently. And we just changed out pacers throughout the day. And so they didn't really keep a pace, but they just kept me moving. They timed my naps. They carried all my food and water. So there's like Will Peterson, who did the Long Trail FKT. He like put out a bunch of like, I don't know if he put it out, but he did like reiterate how important, through his research, how important it is to not carry anything as an FKT, or as somebody who's doing an FKT, because it really weighs you down. Like even a 500 milliliter flask of water can weigh you down. And imagine how much that would have weighed me down for 40 days. So they carried everything. They timed when I needed food and water. They handed me food and water. So they were really the I call myself the race car, and they were like the drivers of the race car.
Well, if you don't follow Tara, you should on Instagram. You can go back and watch most of that trip. It was that's where I got a lot of my research, was just watching the clips and everybody doing what they were doing. I know at points along the trail, you actually just laid down in the trail and spent 90 seconds, which was 90 seconds. I'm out there. I'd be gone for days, but you spend 90-second naps and you're right on the trail, and people would let you know when to get up and keep running.
Yeah. Those 90-second dirt naps were incredible.
I don't know how you get anything out of 90 seconds. That's good.
If anything, it's a little reset.
Yeah, I bet. And mentally and physically, I suppose. So I saw, and I kind of wrapped the FKT up for the Appalachian Trail, but I saw a couple pictures of you right at the end, kind of sitting around the plaque on the ground. I thought that was a neat ending picture for you. Like being on Katahdin on your through hike. Do you have any thoughts? Do you remember what you were thinking when you're sitting on the ground? I mean, you got a lot of people around you congratulating, and did you have any personal thoughts that you kind of reflected on when you hit the last step?
No, not really. There was like at Bly Gap again at 80 miles to the end. I did have a moment with Rascal. She was pacing me, and I was just like pretty, we went over to the campsite that I like was at, and it was just like such a surreal moment. And I want to go back to that like young woman, like who I was back in 2017, and just be like, it's going to be okay. Like, you'll be fine. But obviously I needed to go on this path and go on this journey to find, this FKT. Yeah, find me. But on Springer Mountain, I just was like, I wasn't really stoked to be done. I had a lot of fun. People are pretty like, there's a lot of comment sections that people say like, oh, you didn't even enjoy anything. Like, that's not the point of the Appalachian Trail. And like, one, like, it's not about enjoying it, but two, I did enjoy it. Like, I had such a good time. I was in my favorite place on my favorite trail in the entire world with my friends and my mom. And I was being fed and I was running really far distances, which surprisingly for some people that's surprising. But for me, that's like so fun.
Amazing.
Hard.
I want to stop you there because we didn't hit that, but I think you averaged, I got two different numbers from what I said, but averaged 54 to 58 miles a day. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it was 54 miles a day, but in the beginning, we got slowed down immensely by like southern Maine and New Hampshire, but we had really bad weather there. So that slowed me down a lot, and I ended up being like 100 plus miles behind the record. So after Connecticut, we started putting in like anywhere from like 56 to 62 miles a day after Connecticut. So like in the beginning, it was definitely closer to like 40 to 50, but we had to really up it after Connecticut.
Yeah, I just think the human spirit that you have, I mean, I think a lot of people could do a lot more than they think they can. And I think that's been true in my own life even, but the human spirit and the resilience that you show, and there's some of that maybe is genetic, but I just can't imagine like what you've accomplished, especially on that one. So, I just wanted to say congratulations on that. And I know that you've had a goal, and you can explain that a little bit. Your goal as a runner, as an ultra marathon athlete, to finally get to a point where you could get sponsored. And that recently has happened. Congratulations on that. Tell us about that period of time where you started doing these hikes and these FKTs, and when did that become a goal that, you know what, I love this so much, I want to spend my life out there and get paid for doing what I love?
Yeah, I would say that occurred maybe in 2021 when I started racing competitively after the Mounds of Sea Trail. I was pretty all in on becoming a professional runner. So I got a coach, And I remember going on Ultra's website in 2021 and saying like, I want to be on that elite athlete page. They have this like cool elite athlete page. And I was like looking at that all the time, just this motivation to like be there. And it started then, and I just like implemented a couple things to get me there. So I social media is really important to like being an athlete. Like as much as people say like it's all about the results, I think it's like twofold. I think it's, you know, being great on social media and also having great results. I think having social media doesn't really hurt. I think it can only help. So yeah, so I remember seeing that in 2021 and just wanting to be there. I was my first year as an elite athlete was last year, so I was making not enough money to live. Though this year 2025 they
It's changed.
really put an investment into my career, and
Yeah.
I can now live.
Yeah. Well, money solves problems. You know, it helps you be healthier in the food that you eat. It helps you with training. It helps you with, you know, travel, all of those things. So I think it's fantastic. Have you thought about the implications of now that someone is bought into me, now they've invested in my life, they've invested in my sport, in me generally, does that put an extra portion of stress, portion of now I have to go out and compete? Or are you at a point in your career where, gosh, when I get up in the morning, I just can't wait to hit the trail?
Yeah, I would say right now I really can't wait. I want to be the best athlete I can be. And I have a team around me that helps me with that, right? So I have the nutritionist, I have my strength coach and PT, and my agent and my mindset coach, and all these people who are helping me be the best I can be. It's not just me on my own. Um, I love competing and I want to be the best that I can be. So I'm really motivated by just going out there and trying my best. And I get to do cool things. I get to train in really cool areas. So it's not such a hard life, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. One of the things that you said after the Appalachian Trail, and I've got a bunch of your quotes on here. One of the things you said is, I need to figure out what's next, but I seem to be stuck in stillness. I love that statement. I love the quote. I think you can take that a number of different ways, being stuck in the stillness. Tell me if you remember saying that. Obviously, I want to make sure it's your quote, but tell me what that means to you and how did you overcome that? And did it actually help to be still for a while?
Hmm. Yeah, it helped immensely. It wasn't, so I said that back in 2019 after through hiking, and it applied to the FKT in 2024. So I say like at the end of both of those Appalachian Trail hikes, respective hikes, I felt the same way. Um, you know, I think the stillness comes like physically and like mentally. Like when you're on the trail moving, you're physically moving every day to the max capacity. And mentally, your brain is going, you're very active in the brain, at least I am. Um, and then you finish it, and it's like, all right, now what? But it's like, what else is there? And so I have like I now have like a thought of like what I want to do and where I want to go, and it's exciting. But you know, you got to be still for a while, especially to let your body and your mind heal.
Yeah, I love that. I love that that quote you said, and you said something about um, when belief in yourself disappears. Is that happened to you on the trail? Or is that something that you've kind of overcome, that now you've kind of proved it to yourself, or but now you believe? I know you have moments, I'm sure, on the trail where you're like, I don't know if I can do this, but does your belief in yourself disappear, or have you found a mindset that helps you through that on an everyday basis?
I would say like it's odd because I never think I'm going to complete something or win or get like a really good placement at a race or get the FKT until I'm there at the finish line. Like I never let myself get to that point. So I don't really have a lot of belief in myself as far as like, you're going to win this. It's more like, if you work hard, if you do everything you need to do, you do have a chance at this, but you got to continue to work hard every day. I can't let myself up and say like, you got this. You're totally cool.
I saw that on your video. You said I kind of hold on to that loosely. And I watched that a couple times to get the context of what you were saying. And it made sense from the standpoint, I hold on to it loosely, but then I just grind and I work hard and I end up where I'm supposed to end up. And I thought that was fantastic. So one of the things that you earned, and I know it was one of your goals by placing in the Black Canyon, was you earned the golden ticket to the Western states. Tell us about that. I know that was a major goal, and it's kind of like you have to qualify for that. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's the oldest 100 miler in the country, and it is so notorious. I don't think hundreds of thousands. I think like tens of thousands of people like apply to be in this race year after year, and only, oh man, I'm really bad with my numbers. Not
okay.
500, a little more than that, only get in a year. And so another way to get in is by receiving a golden ticket, which is like entry into this race. But you have to get top 2 or top 3, depending on the race, at a specific race. So it's like a couple of them is like Javelina, Black Canyon, Chianti.
Okay. All
and
kind of West Coast trails. I know there's a lot of West Coast.
The last one was in China, and then there's one in New Zealand. So they have races all over that you can try to get into Western states for. And yeah, it was something I didn't really think was possible, especially coming off the Appalachian Trail, but I was going to work hard and do everything I could do to try to make it happen. And it happened at Black Canyon, which is arguably the most competitive race besides Western states in the country. So that felt really good.
How about that? Well, it's funny, when I started prepping for your conversation, it's been a couple months. You were in the middle of a move, and then you started planning for Black Canyon and all those things. Yeah, I started prepping for that, and I got the opportunity to kind of watch you prep for it and go to it, and then place and get your golden ticket. So it was kind of fun to watch that online and to see those things happen for you. Yeah. And then, of course, the one thing I thought was funny on your video is the tactical reason you put glitter on, that was an interesting thing. And even your male counterpart wore it. I thought that was funny.
Oh, yeah.
I know you said that the folks that run with you during a race, the pacers. I saw your prep meeting on one of your videos where you were going over food and this type of liquid and gels and kind of preparing everybody on the stops to help you out. One of the things you said is that you appreciated words of affirmation or statements of affirmation. Not too many, but you like that. How does that help you? And what words of affirmation could you give the young girls and the women that are so inspired by your story? It's this evolving story that you have. It's like you're not at the end. You haven't finished. You're in the middle of it. That's why this is so much fun. But what kind of words of affirmation can you give to those young ladies that say, I want to be like you?
Oh yeah. I feel like I'm able to give words of affirmation better than I can like receive them. That's why it can't be too much or too many words of affirmation. Otherwise, we're doing something opposite at that point. But like for the women and for the girls, I would say just don't listen to all the chatter. Don't listen to people saying you can or that you can't. Specifically, listen to people say you can. Listen to those people, but like, don't listen to all this chatter. People saying like, you can't do this. Like, it's not possible. Somebody tried this and they didn't do it. Like, you never know if you don't try. Like, ideally, like you would like to know if you're going to make it, but like, that's not what life's about. It's about like a journey, and like a journey, it doesn't only have like going straight up on this like trajectory of like success. It's got ups and downs, and there are going to be failures. And if you're expecting that, and if you look at the failure as a learning moment and grow from it, I mean, hopefully, in the future, eventually you're going to find success in whatever that means for you. So like, that's not so much like a word of affirmation, but like, if we're looking at words of affirmation, I would say like for endurance women, specifically women who are in the endurance sport realm, like we are specifically for like races over like, or like FKTs over like 200 miles, like we
Right.
can compete with most of the men. And it's not
Sure.
about beating the men. It's not about like
It's not.
being the best. It's about just pushing your limits and like showing that, this thing you thought was impossible. Like I grew up with a brother. So like it was always impossible to me thinking like I could beat him in something. And once it got to the point where I was beating him in the mile, I was like, whoa, this is incredible and kind of cool. And it's like, what else can I do? And you're just building upon that.
Yeah.
This episode of Grind to Growth to Greatness is brought to you by Terry Barr, Distinctive Real Estate, advising families across Pennsylvania and Northern Virginia for over 15 years. Visit the website at terrybarrealestate.com.
Yeah, one of the things in one of Jennifer's books I read, and it struck me. She talked a lot about, the misnomer of women not being able to, and there are obviously certain things women can't, that are maybe not strong as men or what have you, but there's a certain, especially in endurance sports, that there's a point where that gap goes away, and then and becomes, there's something within a woman that gives them more of endurance than men. And I don't know what that point is. I don't know if it's time. I don't know if it's effort. I don't know what it is, but I thought that was interesting. Do you still, I mean, you and I are in different ages by a long shot, but do you still experience like, you can't do that, you're a woman, or I don't believe in you because you're a woman? Because I know we grew up in that society 40 years ago. I don't know how somebody could look at you and go, you can't do that, you're a woman. But do you ever experience that?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Before the Appalachian Trail, I had people that were like, are you sure you can do this? Well, are you sure? I was like, okay.
No.
And then like online, a lot of people online. I mean, but like people these days, they're like, yeah, you can do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I've proved it to them and myself.
Yeah, that's great. A couple more quick questions. Tell me about your best friend, Reese. Tell me what she means to you. It seems like she's a big part of your existence in that world. So tell me what she means to you.
Yeah, Reese is great. She looks a lot like Rascal. I have two best friends that look very identical, very small little people with brown braids. But yeah, Reese is really important. I met her in 2016 at my job before I went on the Appalachian Trail. So she's seen the entire journey.
Was that REI when you were at REI?
No, that was
okay.
Great Outdoor Provision Company.
Okay.
So another gear store.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Reese has just always been around to see like me go through these failures. She has seen me in ultra marathons from the very beginning. She's crewed a lot of my races, and she's super competitive too. And she knows she's sassy, so she can get her way. So we're like very different. Like I'm a little more subdued, and she's like, I'm gonna push you. Yeah. Yeah, she's great. And she lives here in Durango, and that's like one of the big reasons I moved here.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. I know you have a tattoo. It says "Suffer Well." What does that mean to you? How'd you get it? And why did you get
it? Yeah. Suffer well. Yeah. Oh, right. That I don't know how I forgot this. I was trying to think, why did I get that? But so a month before starting the Appalachian Trail, I did Hard Rock 100, which is in the San Juans. It's a really hard race in going up and down every single mountain in the San Juans, it feels like. And I was going through Uray after throwing up for the last like 40 so miles, I was pretty depleted, and I was running through town, and I look over, there's this handmade sign by children, and it said "Suffer well, friends." And I was like, that is perfect. That's it. And so I was going to get a hard rock tattoo, but then somebody told me I have to, you can go clockwise and counterclockwise. And so so next I have to do that, but I'm not a real hard rocker until I do both directions. So he was like, you can't get a hard rock tattoo. So I was like, okay, like suffer well is a good alternative. And I think it just means like, I expecting that you're going to suffer. You might suffer, you might not suffer. If you don't, great. But if you do, like, you're expecting it, and just to like embrace that and see how far you can go into that, like, suffering, and like try to like do it the best way possible by just continuing forward.
Now, do you have words that you go by? I know the word that came across on your last, was a Black Rock, I guess, or Black Canyon, was comatose. And you talked a little bit about comatose. Do you attach words to your races that you focus on and you ultra uber on?
Yeah, I do. Like equanimity was the word for the Appalachian Trail. Comatose was for Black Canyon. Or I'll have like sayings that are associated with races. Anything that just really speaks to me. I'll be listening to a podcast and hear a word and look it up and say, that's perfect. So, comatose for Black Canyon really was just like, you're going to get to a point where it's really hard, and you just need to go comatose. You need to just like get in that mindset where your legs are moving. You need to shut off your brain and go comatose.
Yeah, I love that. I have a podcast coming up with somebody. I had a pre-interview with him yesterday, and he was a founder of Ronald McDonald House in New York, and he has a family house, which is for adults in Pittsburgh. And he used the word serendipitous. And that is a tremendous word when you see something, there's something in front of you, and you act on it, to take advantage of serendipity when it shows itself. So I love the fact that you have a word that means something to you, that you take with you, that you can focus on. And I'm sure all races are different in a lot of different ways. But that was interesting to me that you used that word. So you're a young lady, you're 31, is that right? 31. At this point in your life, when you're not running and you're not doing these kinds of things, do you read? Do you listen to podcasts? Are you how do you consume content for those out there as young people?
Yeah, I love reality television. So I'm on Netflix watching a lot of reality TV. And then I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts. People aren't going to be surprised. Just love the true crime. And what else? Oh, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, but not what you'd think. I'm not watching like ultra marathons or triathletes. I'm watching like this guy called Moist Critical. He's like a gaming podcaster, gaming YouTuber, but he does other kinds of videos. So it's like I just watch a lot of different kinds of stuff. I have enough content in my life about running. I just want to like escape from that.
Yeah. That's interesting. I have a friend that's the head baseball coach for Michigan, and he said the same thing. He's like, I'm focused on baseball all the time. I said, well, okay, what kind of content do you consume? He's like, I stream. I stream everything. He's like, when I'm down, and I just want to get away from it. So that makes a lot of sense when you're so mentally focused day in and day out, even practice runs and all those things. I would think you'd want to get away from those things. So, yeah. All right. Any last words for those out there that love you, are inspired by you, that want to be like?
Well, I mean, there was people like that for me too. And if that's something you want to do, if you want to do these incredible endurance feats, from a place of like just wanting to like push your limits, I say just go for it. Like I didn't really have a lot of people encouraging. I had a couple of people encouraging me back in the day, but mostly it was just me and the stoke. So if you have that desire, just go for it. You never know if you don't try.
That's awesome. Thank you. Where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Tara.Dower, Dower. And then I have a new podcast, actually. It's DNF Diaries. And that's a fun little comedy podcast about quitting races with my friend Arlie. And then I'm on YouTube at Tara Treks, Treks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's been hard for me to like send them out.
Yeah,
So
of
you
course.
can get it on Amazon. I have a book. If you
okay.
so it's just not signed.
That's okay.
That's the
I
only
didn't know
thing.
that. Should've
Yeah.
looked.
So I have it on Amazon. I think it's like $16, and it's a short story and photographs from the Benton MacKaye Trail FKT. And if you want a good idea of what an FKT looks like day to day, that's
it,
in my opinion, a good way.
What's the name of the book?
Light and Easy.
Light and Easy. So you can get that on Amazon.
Yeah, those were my 2 words during that. There's another word association.
Word association. That's fantastic. Yeah. Listen, Tara, thanks for coming on. I know you are busy, and it's always impressive that I get people like yourself to come on and tell their story. So thank you for that. And all of those out there that want to follow Tara, go to her YouTube channel. Get her book, Light and Easy, on Amazon, and watch her, because you can watch these races all over. So follow her, cheer her on. Don't be a hater. You're not out there. She is. But thanks for coming on, and thanks for tuning in to Grind to Growth to Greatness. Tune in next week when we have another great guest. Thanks again. And I just can't wait to see what happens for you. It's such a great story.
Well, great. Thank you, Terry, for having me on.
Awesome. Have a great day.
All right. Bye.
Go get it.
This is day 40 and 18 hours of trying to set the fastest known time on the Appalachian Trail. And it looks like, it hasn't been verified yet, but it looks like I just set the new fastest known time, overall fastest known time on the Appalachian Trail. Thanks to Chump Change crew and all the people that came out and paced and crewed and supported from afar, and we got my goal $20,000 raised for Girls on the Run. So thankful, so happy, and so ready for a shower and sleep. So thank you so much for joining me on this adventure.
Listening to the Grind to Growth to Greatness podcast. Our passion is to talk to the brightest entrepreneurs, CEOs, creators, athletes, anyone who's made it, and dive into their struggles, their successes, and their secrets. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Grind to Growth to Greatness. See you next time.